I'm Edie Lush, and I'm here at the Hub Culture Pavilion in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And I'm really pleased to be joined by Daniella Fong. She's the co-founder and chief science officer at Lightsail Energy. So tell me, what's the scale of the problem that you're tackling?
Well, so people know that there's an energy crisis, but I think people underestimate just how influential that is and just how urgent the problem is. So there are kind of two angles to this. Everyone knows the environmental angle, but I'll start out with the economic angle since we're at the World Economic Forum.
Mm-hmm.
Energy is the master resource. About half of the world's commodity trade, things that you buy and sell internationally, is energy, specifically oil. And about half of the cost structure of everything else is also energy. So basically, the cost of energy relates directly to the cost of everything that we buy, everything in the physical world, from concrete and steel for homes to the newest iPhones and everything in between. So energy is incredibly important, and if we don't have enough of it, if it's not abundant, then we also lose the capability to adapt. And that's where the other part comes in, the environmental part. People tend to assume that, if the environment is ruined, that'll be all right. We'll just have the technical capability to adapt. And actually, that's increasingly less true. The systems that we have, agricultural systems, systems to make our cities resilient to large storms and things like this, they're increasingly expensive. So what the world needs desperately is a clean, abundant energy source that it can tap into, much more than it has in the past. And of course, there's a lot of sun and wind, but until you have a way to store that energy, you can't rely on it. You can only use it maybe 20, 30% of your energy usage. The rest has to come from fossil fuels, or if it's politically viable, nuclear, which I'm not sure it ever will be. So that's what we're trying to do.
So storage is obviously important. It seems like huge changes are happening in the storage. Tell me about the solution that you're working on.
So what we're working on is a way that we hope will be radically cheaper to store energy than in batteries. And instead of using a chemical reaction to store energy, we store energy in compressed air. So you take electric power from solar or wind or any other source when it's not needed so much, off-peak. And the idea is to store it and put it out when the power is needed most, when it's typically 3 times as expensive as off-peak energy. So what we do is we take the electricity, we put it in an electric motor, and then we put it through our special air compressor. And that compresses air into tanks, which we've made. They're the lowest cost air tanks in the world. And the interesting thing about the system is that you can store a lot of energy, about 1 megawatt hour in a shipping container, or scaled down to sort of sizes we're familiar with. The average American home uses about 30 kilowatt hours a day. That could be stored in 1 cubic meter, so about the size of a small refrigerator. So it's very practical. And this equipment, it doesn't wear out like your cell phone battery.
Right.
It lasts a very long time, 20, 30 years. That's easy for an air compressor and air tanks. There's no chemical degradation process. When you want the power, the whole process runs in reverse, and the electric motor, this is really cool, turns into an electric generator, and that puts out AC power onto the grid to power whatever you need.
So how close are you to bringing it to market?
We're very close. We're almost there. So it's a very exciting time for Lightsail. We have a working prototype in the lab that gets to full pressure. It's a quarter of a megawatt. We're going to upgrade it to half a megawatt of charging power. And what that will do after we run it through the paces again and again, we're going to try to deploy at the end of this year and early next year a set of pilots demonstrating a bunch of really interesting, important use cases that will then scale throughout the world. And after about the end of 2016, we'll be ready to scale it to meet really large challenges and power whole cities.
Fantastic. Danielle, thank you so much for stopping by the Hub Culture Pavilion here in Davos, and I'm Edie Lush.
Thank you.
Thank you.